Hey y'all, welcome back to the shop. This is Terry, and we're back on some more Maverick projects today, and we're we are solving a little bit of an issue with this car. This car's never once overheated, but when the temperature's above 90 and you're stuck in traffic, it'll get up to 17, 18, up around 220. I don't really care for that, and with not running the AC, so obviously the AC, if you're running the AC, it's going to get even worse. And when it's above 90, I want to run the AC. I don't want to worry about, oh, it's too hot outside for me to drive my car today. That's not going to happen. So we're on a major project. First thing is this Wizard cooling. Prestige Motorsports built this motor. It's in this car, 347 stroker. And talking to Doug over there, this was his suggestion. And they custom build these, so it takes a little bit to get it. It's about 6 weeks, I think, to get it. And at the time that we're shooting this, it was about almost $1,800 for everything. It's a 2-core. They build their stuff different. It's a 2-core radiator, but it's got 1.25 inch tubes in it. So a completely different deal than what most people are doing. They build their own shrouds. They build all this stuff. This is a Spal brushless fan that's on here with the controller and everything for it. So this is awesome. This is going to solve our cooling problem, I'm sure, but it won't fit in the car. We'll look at that in just a minute on over there, but just really wanted to kind of show off some of these pieces. And the Vintage Air Frontrunner, we've been waiting a long time for this. They had a piece of this was on back order. They just didn't have it, and it's been about literally 2 months almost to the day from when I ordered it to when we got it. At the time that this is their chrome kit, it comes polished for $2,920 at the time that we're shooting this. For $100 more, all of this comes chromed, or most of this, all the pulleys, alternator, all this stuff all comes chromed. AC compressor, all that. For $100, man, on a car that we show a lot, I'd way rather just spray Windex on it and wipe it off than have to deal with a bunch of polished aluminum. So that seemed like a really good deal. I've read everything there is possible to read. I've watched every video. There's some issues that I'll come back in a minute and kind of address these issues, but I'm going to go over and show you what's going on, what's on the car now, and how it fits and what the deal is. And then we'll come back in a minute and I'll show you some known issues with this kit and the small block Ford in our configuration. Be right back. All right, let's talk a little bit about where we are now and why we're headed to where we're headed. So let's start in the very front. So this is the Vintage Air condenser. I don't really care for the way that's mounted, but it sort of is what it is in this configuration without surgery on the radiator support, which we're not going to do. The current radiator, not a bad radiator really. It's a Champion 3-core. It has their fan shroud on it and Spal regular brushed 16-inch fan. I don't know, the CFM ratings are all over the place. I hate to even say that. I think it's supposed to be like 1,500 or something, but who knows. And it's a CVF front drive. This car actually had, well, let's go back to here. The Spal fan was just attached to the radiator with one of those zip tie setups with no shroud whenever I got it. So I added the shroud and the billet cap, and there was no overflow. So I did a little puke ball. The CVF setup was actually on this car with a V-belt drive whenever I got it, but I changed everything over to the serpentine. And then when I was getting ready to change over to the serpentine stuff, the compressor that was on it, I could see was leaking around the shaft. So I bought a compressor and put on it. So all that stuff has worked okay. It's got the infamous 1-wire alternator on it, and this thing's always had a battery drain, and I'm pretty sure that that's the issue. So we're going to see if we can deal with that while we're doing what we're doing with the changing over to the Vintage Air stuff. But the major problem with this deal is right here. As you can see, don't got much room there. The Wizard cooling module is 1.5 inches thicker, and I think we got about 3/4 right there. So we got just no way to make it work. So thus the change over to the Vintage Air. The Vintage Air is pretty cool too, because you won't be able to see these. The compressor is still over here, but the Vintage Air, I think I showed you earlier, but the Vintage Air's got tubes that run down under the alternator. So the AC lines will be down here. We're going to redo all the AC lines. We'll be pulling the fender off. This is you can see now that these lines are actually coming back in between. I don't know if you can see that or not, maybe. But the lines are coming in between the radiator and the condenser now, and coming back and going around. They're going under the fender, under this right fender, into a bulkhead in the A pillar, and then inside the car. The AC, I still don't really understand why this is, but the AC was charged whenever I got this car, and it was working. But whenever we changed this belt drive over, it immediately had a leak under the dash, which I don't understand at all. But anyway, it needs a hose and under the dash, which is going to be an interesting proposition to try to get to. So we'll show you that too when we get there, but maybe if we get that far. But anyway, I just wanted to show you what the original setup was, or not the original setup, but what the setup is now. And like we talked about before, the car has never overheated one time, but it's just climbing in traffic. And the highest I've seen, it's about 217 or something. It's not overheating. I know a bunch of people are going to make a comment and say there's nothing wrong with 217, but in my world, there's something wrong with that. I don't want it to be 217, and I don't want to be having to look at it all the time. And even running down the road, it'll still a super hot day. Everything's fine as long as the air temperature's, below 90. Once the air temperature gets above 90, then there's trouble. So anyway, I just want to show you what the original setup was, and we'll start disassembly and come back in a little bit. All right. So there's not really much out there video wise, and this is not going to be a super complete step-by-step install of this. Joe Daddy, JoJodaddy, Joe Daddy's Garage on YouTube. Great guy, and he's got like 4 videos on this Vintage Air stuff with the small block. He has a couple of other issues because he's got a Ford Motorsports block in there, which causes some bolt issues. This 347 is a later model 302 roller block, so it doesn't have those bolt issues. But there are a couple of issues that he addressed that we will address as well. The Vintage Air Frontrunner is really short. Matter of fact, 6.8 inches from the face of the block out to the front to the water pump. And this is how they do that. This is I found this out on the Joe Daddy thing. Like I said, I'll link to his stuff. It's pretty cool. But this is a mid-90s Explorer reverse rotation water pump. And that's how they get this. And as you just saw, I mean, there's only 5/8, 3/4 of an inch between the regular brushed Spal fan and the water pump pulley, which is not enough to even change over to the brushless fan. So this is the deal. They use this short water pump that really helps get it short. Like I said, 6.8 inches. That's about as short as you're going to get. And this is really, pick this up. Okay, this is a back plate for the Vintage Air, and it actually replaces the timing chain cover on the small block Ford. And there's everything just bolts on here. The CVF drive that's on it now, It works perfectly fine, but it's a lot of fiddling. It's parts and pieces, and trying to make sure the pulleys line up and spacers and washers, and there's a lot of fiddling with it to make it work. This literally everything just bolts onto this, and then it's got a regular like OEM looking belt tensioner and one belt instead of two like the CVF is. But and this was the back order thing. This is what took forever on the back order. But just in case you're wondering, because I was wondering what a chunk that thing is. So I took this in and weighed it just to see, and that thing alone weighs 14.2 pounds. So it's definitely a chunk of aluminum. But so on the back of this, you're going to notice the first thing is there's no provision for a manual fuel pump at all. So you got to have an electric fuel pump here. No big deal for us. We got the Sniper on it, so it's got electric fuel pump anyway. But if you have a fuel pump eccentric on the front to run that, hang on a second, let me set this down. So if you have a fuel pump eccentric that's on the front of the cam gear, this interferes with that. So you're going to have to take this off. Now, some of these actually have a stud in there that actually that fits in this hole. This one does not. It actually has a little tang on it that goes in a hole on the timing gear. So I didn't have to do anything. If you just have to change washers, and if you take this off of one that has that stud in there instead of this little tang. But no big deal for us. It was just to take it off and put it back on. Okay, the other thing, so this car has an aftermarket, the bolt's going to fall out, has an aftermarket Summit balancer on it. And these balancers are a little bit bigger diameter than the regular Ford balancer. And on the Joe Daddy thing, he actually had interference between, he has the Ford Motorsport balancer on his, but very close to, very similar situation. But the water pump and this balancer did not get along. And I don't know if you can see it or not, but the water pump already has a little flat on the bottom, like they were, I guess, clearing the balancer apparently on the Explorer. But he literally took a little bit off of this, which we're going to go ahead and do. I don't want to even risk it, so we're going to go ahead and do that. Like I said, it's already a flat there anyway. We're going to make it a little flatter on there, so we make sure that we don't have any clearance issues there. I think the only other issue, we'll address them if we need to in the assembly. My buddy Steve is going to come over today, and we've been friends forever, and I'm not sure if you've seen him in a video before, but he's had a lot to do with this car, a lot to do with basically every car I've ever owned. Great mechanic, and just a great guy, my best friend forever. He's going to come over and help mechanical stuff today. So if we run into anything else weird, I'll try to come back and say that. But basically, we're going to do this, get all this install done today. When we get this apart, I'll go back over to the car in just a minute and kind of take a tour around some of the issues with the car and some of the things that we're going to have to deal with in our particular case, because this is a hidden wire, hidden hose car. And the Vintage Air, the compressor's still on the left-hand side of the motor, but these tubes, I'll show you more once it's on there, but these tubes actually bolt onto the compressor and come down, and this is actually coming out under the alternator. So prior, the hoses went all the way across the front, actually in between the radiator and the condenser, out and around and up. You saw that earlier, and those hoses are going to get a few feet shorter now, because this is going to come. I'm not sure how we're getting hoses there yet, but we'll figure that out. But this is coming out under the alternator way down low on the right hand side. So I like that better because it's obviously going to hide stuff better. So let me I get the disassembly done here, and then we'll come back at the car and take a look at that and some other things that we're going to do, and get to putting this thing together. Okay, so a lot of work has gone on. I'll show you what we got going on here. So got all the front drive and everything off. And I've showed this car a lot. You don't really realize, and this car gets driven. It was driven a lot before we got it, and it was certainly been driven a lot since we've had it. But You don't even realize how dirty something is until you take it apart. But man, it was dirty. So got everything cleaned up, touched up, everything ready to go here. So we pulled the hoses and everything out. So the reconfiguration of hoses is going to be an interesting deal, because this heater hose was coming across the intake and onto the water pump, and the new water pump, in fact, let me grab that and we'll look at that. So the Explorer water pump turns that hose down, and it literally goes under the alternator and comes out, where those AC hoses are coming from. So we're going to have to deal with that. I'm not exactly sure what we're doing there, but I'm hoping that we can pull it back and go under the dash and come out in the A-pillar and hide that hose completely, but we'll see how that goes. The way this car is configured is the dryer is right here under the fender, and it's another Vintage Air piece, but it's got a bulkhead going through the cowl to under the dash. And unfortunately, there's a leak under the dash of this car, and it's in a little hose that is connecting back here and going over to the evaporator core. And I can't get there from here to get it out. I'm going to loosen everything up, and I'm hoping that I can get that heat and air. The car doesn't have anything Maverick heater air lift. It's all vintage. They're version 5. I can't remember exactly how they call it, but anyway, Gen 5. That's the one. Maybe it's a Gen 4. Anyway, it's one of those. It's Vintage Air, one way or the other. Everything. So I'm hoping I can get that box loose enough to get that out. The plan here, I don't know where these hoses are going either, but this hose, you can see how long. I'll show you. You see how I just cut it off right at the fitting to get it out, but you see how much hose there was there, and now it's literally just going to go through here some sort of way to those connections. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. But anyway, just wanted to show you that what it took here. It's a lot easier working on this car with the hood off, and obviously I needed to get the fender off to do all this stuff over here, but just kind of show you the car and how that is. It'll be rewiring for the fan, rewiring for the alternator, and we're going to get to putting this thing together, and we'll come back in a minute. It'll be longer than a minute. We'll come back later and show you how progress is going. All right, and we're back. I think this is we started on Saturday. This is Labor Day weekend 2024. So my great buddies Steve and Rob were here Saturday. Spent most of the day Saturday trying to put stuff together. Got quite a ways in between the resin and the jaw jacking. We've been working on cars together, building cars together pretty much our whole lives. So pretty cool to be back with those guys, but kind of show you where we are. We had the Saturday. I came back out yesterday after church and spent a couple hours just kind of figuring out some stuff and filling in some blank spots and getting a little bit of stuff done. So Frontrunner went on with really no issue. The only issue that we had is the dowels in the block would not go in the holes. So we had to make that deal work out. Of course, didn't find that out, and we should have test fit, but didn't find that out till everything had a gasket maker on it. But anyway, got all that worked out. I don't think there was really any other issues at all. And it looks fantastic, as you can see. Super happy with it. And we're using these Gates heat shrink hose clamps, which have been really cool. Having to reuse the bottom hose that was on it. It's 1 3/4 on the Explorer water pump, and 1.5 on the Wizard radiator, and that's what that hose was or is. So we're using that. Everything else worked out. Got the Vintage Air sends that heater hose out in the same direction that the AC lines are coming in. See the AC lines right there. So I'm trying to figure out the most elegant way to make that happen without a bunch of more bulkheads, and I don't really want to do that. So I think we've come up with a plan. So try to execute that today, and I'll show you later. But eliminated the heater hose coming across the intake, and I think everything's good. The existing pressure and return lines from the old Saginaw pump went right on this with that adapter from Vintage Air. Thankfully, it's the same thread, so pretty cool there. Want to have a bunch of wiring today. This is the start of trying to rework these hoses and such to get in there. Cleaned the shop yesterday, but looked like a bomb went off in it again today. So that's job one this morning, to just find the stinking shop. Did get the hose out from under the dash, which was an extravaganza. This is the offending AC line from under the dash, and this fitting, you can see that, I mean, you can tell that it's been leaking out. Crazy deal, but it was actually pouring out the weep hole in there, and this was a bear to get out from under the dash. We pulled the lower dash and the seat out. You can't do anything under the dash without having the seat out. And then I decided not to cut one of my snap-on wrenches, so went to O'Reilly's and bought a $13 3/4 inch wrench and made a little modification, as you can see there, because that hose is all the way up in there on the back side of that heater and air box from Vintage. Quite the deal. So anyway, today we're going to be carrying on, and since it's Monday, it's Labor Day, and glad to have my buddies back in the shop, and we'll be jaw jacking and poking each other as usual, and trying to get something done. So we will come back again, see what we can get accomplished today. Okay, once again we're back, and I know it's only been like 2 seconds for you guys, but I really just have fallen down on the job on the video. So it's actually Thursday now, and spent a good day with wiring. I spent about a whole day, almost a whole day, getting hoses figured out, getting routes figured out for hoses, and show you what we came up with here. I actually cut an oval hole right there. It's 1.5 inches by almost 4 to give these hoses enough room to get through there and not squash the heater hose. Could not get decided to not do ports on these. They're just too close. So got all that stuff done. We got ports down here. Unfortunately, the guy that did the port on the high side got it turned the wrong direction. I had them very clearly marked, but didn't happen. So the gauge is still going there, so no big deal. So got all this done. Decided to put that heat wrap. I had it in stock, so to speak. So I just decided to put that heat wrap on that heater hose, as much to protect the hose as anything. Obviously, this car really doesn't have inner fenders. It's just got this little plastic thing in the front and another little plastic thing in the back, and that's all there is. Got this pass-through done, all that worked out. The hose that we talked about under the dash absorbed a huge amount of time. It's just in a horrible place, like we talked about before. And when I fitted these hoses, I decided to make a hose that just went straight from one fitting to the other that was exactly the right length. Well, the guys that crimp these hoses didn't know, and I didn't know either, but when you crimp these hoses, they get a little bit longer. And so that caused me a world of trouble. And y'all, I'm covered with bruises and band-aids from being stuck under there, but it literally took me 2 hours to ever get this hose connected under the dash. And it was no fun. But anyway, got all the wiring done. I decided, y'all seen it before, but this thing has a billet cover hold down made for the Optima battery I got from Summit, and I decided it was too shiny, so it's over at the body shop getting painted. And all this in here, all the really cool gates, clamps, and I took a lot of time to hide wiring and redo everything in the woven wire cover, whatever you want to loom. There's actually loom right there. Took some wires away in there, moved them around, did everything to try to hide it. Oh, excuse me. Try to hide it as good as we can. Really happy with all of that. So I got all the hoses on there, all the wiring done, everything done. Had it running yesterday, and the sensor that I put in here, I made this choice, and maybe it's not the right choice, and if it's weird, I'll do something with it later. But the way that the pulse wave modulated sensors work with these brushless fans is they come on at a certain temperature, and then they don't go to wide open until a certain temperature. So this is a come on at 165, and it's the fan's going 100% at 185. So literally, as soon as the thermostat started to open, then which it showed 185 on the sniper screen. As soon as the thermostat barely opened and the water was barely moving in there, the fan was wide open, and the temperature went back to 182, and it literally stayed there for like 30 minutes while this car was just sitting here idling. So pretty happy with that. No leaks or anything. I want to talk about a weird deal. So the timing pointer on this car is not the stock timing pointer. It's a billet timing pointer. I'm not 100% for sure that there's enough room to even see the timing pointer in here. So thankfully it's set where it needs to be. But down in there somewhere is a harmonic balancer that I spent a lot of time cleaning up and marking and clearing that you can't see. But hey, I know it's there. But anyway, so I needed to get a couple longer bolts. Well, on Monday, whenever Steve came over, we were going to swap those bolts out, and the bolts in that back plate were not nearly as tight, torqued down to whatever they are, 18, 20, whatever they are, as they were. That was really concerning. All those bolts, he got some more out of turning like everything sort of settled in a little bit. So we decided we were going to pull all those bolts out and Loctite them with some blue Loctite and retorque everything, which we did. But just an FYI, that was a weird deal to me, because at that time it was just the back plate on there, of course. No, I'm sorry. No, we put the whole thing was together, so we had to take it part of the way back apart again and then retorque everything there. So it's just an odd deal. I don't know if that's a bolt stretch or if it was just settling in from a little super thin, layer of gasket maker on the paper gasket. So I don't know, but that's something everybody ought to watch out for. But anyway, I got everything wired. The car already had this. I think we already said it. Yeah, of course we did. It's got Vintage Air Gen 4 Magnum AC and heat and defrost in it, but it had the trinary switch already, and which was not wired correctly at all for the old fan and stuff that was in it. So it's wired correctly now. So hopefully all that'll work. I think we're actually in pretty good shape. Today, this is Thursday, and been by myself for Tuesday and Wednesday. So I had one day basically of hoses, one day basically of wiring and just cleaning up wires and getting all that stuff done. So today, got a little bit more things to do here, not too much more, and then we're going to charge the AC tonight and see if we don't have any leaks. I still don't feel confident under the dash because it was just such a struggle to get that thing in there, and it's so easy to damage one of these O-rings. So hopefully all that's good. We'll find out soon. I keep cleaning this shop. I usually don't show the shop in such a condition, but my shop, no horizontal surface is safe whenever we're on the thrash like this. So anyway, I'm going to spend the day just kind of double checking filling in some loose ends. I got to go get some Freon. Just double checking stuff, making sure everything's good. And we're hopefully charge the AC tonight, and then we're well on the way to being done. All right, we are back one more time, and it's now Saturday. And a little issue getting the AC charged. The Vintage Air stuff's new to us, so didn't realize what we needed to do. But once we figured it out, I had to reprogram the control panel. It has the rheostat. I'll show you in a minute, but the rheostat control panel stuff. And once that was reprogrammed, then everything works as advertised. So trinary switch works fine. We got gem and AC now. We let this thing sit and idle for, I don't know, 45 minutes, maybe longer, whenever we were charging the AC and just messing with it. And the temperature never got above 185. And before somebody says it, I realize the hood's not on it, blah, blah, blah. But I do also realize that this car just sitting still, idling, would get up in the upper 190s, even on a cool day, just sitting and idling, which it doesn't do anymore. So most of the time, the temperature 182, 183. And this fan, holy smokes, man, that fan freaking jams. And that the trinary, whenever it kicks the fan with the AC, the fan's automatically on wide open. And I've had it running several times, but I didn't realize that it was actually never wide open before yesterday when we got the AC charged. But all this worked out really well. Hose is all in, everything all secured and ready to go. So I'm pretty close, still waiting on that plate to get in to get that thing done. Obviously, it wouldn't hurt to have some sheet metal on it. Got to put the dash back together. I'll show you this. You can't, if you're my size, or pretty much anybody's size, you can't do anything under the dash of these cars with the stinking seats in there. So got to get the lower dash back in. Got to do some serious cleaning because we've been in and out of this thing 100 times with our feet up in the seats and what have you. But anyway, working on that today, and hopefully have the bulk of this buttoned up today. My other buddy, Steve, the painter, going to come over Monday after work, and we'll put this thing back together, and I'll show you the done project, even though, you know, not like y'all ain't seen it with sheet metal on it, but love the look of everything here. I mean, I'm just really pleased with it. That blue plate on top of that battery is going to finish everything off, but all of this worked out really well. We had a wiring issue Friday, and down beside this battery was just a disaster. And I had kind of put a Band-Aid on a broken leg prior, but I put a bigger Band-Aid on the broken leg now to cut all that apart, sorted all that, and made that way better than what it's ever been. So this winter, we're going to pull the windshield, pull the dash, and cut all these looms apart, because I think I said this before, but this car's been rewired. It's got a quick wire, 12-spot ATO fuse box and wiring harness in it. But inside these looms, I mean, there's just wires that are just cut off, and there's been too many cooks in the kitchen on this deal. So Steve and I are going to gut this thing, and I mean, we don't need to rewire everything, but just clean up wiring and make sure everything's good over the winter. But we'll get this all buttoned up, and I'll come back once we have some sheet metal on it, and just kind of go over everything. All right, we are back one last time. I don't know how many days it's been, but it's been several days. We've been to a huge cruise night and car show over in Spal, Oklahoma. It's a gigantic cruise night. It's crazy. I'll put up a picture or two here of cruise night, but as far as performance of the car, we were in absolute bumper to bumper traffic in this cruise night forever in 3 days, with the AC running most of the time. Car never got over 189 degrees. I've driven it quite a bit since. Car's never, I mean, it it stays around 184, 183, 185. Couldn't be happier. Got everything back together here. Everything's working perfectly. Obviously, the radiator stuff's performed just unbelievably. So, just want to come back and show the final product and kind of give you some news there. That's really about it. I mean, I think we've gone through pretty well everything having to do with this conversion, and I mean, it went fairly smooth. A couple little bumps in the road, but it went fairly smooth and was absolutely worth it. It is really nice to get in this car and turn the key. It's 95 degrees. I don't care. We're going to be stuck in traffic. I don't care. Jam on the AC. Here we go. Not have to worry about it. So kudos to folks at Wizard Cooling for the cooling module, and to Vintage Air for the Frontrunner. And I mean, I'm just a retail customer, so we got absolutely nothing for free here. So, but anyway, we'll be back with more. We got some more projects coming up, Maverick stuff. So we'll be back with some more Maverick stuff shortly. So thanks so much for watching. Hey, throw me a comment up there. I mean, the comments really help with the YouTube algorithm. Like it, share it. Give us however much help you like. If you see something you like here, then hit that thumbs up. So thanks so much for watching. We'll see you soon.